in Mexico, which is where my parents and I are from, value collectivism over individualism. So you put the group or the family above yourself, right? The group above the individual. But what do you do when you are born into a collectivist culture? Because I was born in Mexico. I came over here when I was around 3 years old. And you're raised here, but in a totally Mexican household with the background and the cultural beliefs and the values that are instilled in you are those that were instilled in my parents, but you're raised in an individualist society that is America, that expects you to put yourself above all else. And sometimes those two things conflict and they clash. And I feel like that's when things like this happen, right? They very much depend on me, and I very much depend on them. But sometimes I feel like I can't do both, right? I can't be. So today is August 2nd, 2024, and up to now I've completed a total of, I believe, 8 treatments of transcranial magnetic stimulation therapy, or TMS, for depression and anxiety. And I have recorded a mood journal video for every single day that I've done treatment so far, talking about treatment and how my mood is that day. And I plan on doing that every day. Today the clinic was closed, so there was no video for today. And we also don't have treatment on weekends, so there will be no TMS videos on weekends. But I will be resuming those TMS videos on Monday. And if you want to go back and look at my first week of treatment, you can go ahead and check out my past videos, and I'll leave one up here somewhere and probably some links below in the description as well. But today's video is just going to be like a normal mood journal, talking about some things that I've observed the past couple of days, as far as what I feel amps up my anxiety. I'll talk a little bit about the depression, some family dynamics that I've noticed this past week, because I'm kind of making it a point now to really observe my mood, which I think for someone who deals with mental health problems, that's probably not something that we do, at least for me. I'm very hypervigilant and alert of what's going on around me, and my constant imposter syndrome and negative thoughts, but I'm not very aware of what's really going on inside me, as far as bodily sensations, or when I start feeling anxious or when I might start feeling down. And I've noticed, since I've been making a conscious effort to pay more attention to my mood, I'm more mindful about when I start feeling more anxious and stuff like that. And one of the things I noticed yesterday when I was at work, I was sitting at my desk typing away because I had a report due that afternoon, and these IEP reports, because I work as a speech therapist and in the schools, and IEP reports are really long and they take a really long time to write up, especially if it's a kid who's just starting, who is an initial student, right? So it's an initial IEP, which means that they're barely getting referred to special education. And I've done all my assessments as a speech therapist, and the special education teachers has done all their assessment, and the school psychologist has complete all their assessments, and we each have a set of assessments that we have to administer, and we have to score those assessments. And based on those scores, in the state of California, if the child is, I believe, 1.5 standard deviations below the mean or below the 7th percentile, then they qualify for special education. At least they qualify as having a speech and language impairment, which would then qualify them to at least receive speech and language services. So it's a whole process, right? Assessing the kid, which was stressful, can be very stressful sometimes. Like in this particular situation, I talked about how I only had 2 days to assess her because she's an incoming transfer student and the school year starts in like 2 days. So it starts this Monday, and we need her to start the school year already with an IEP plan in place because she has a disability, right? And we want her to be able to get all her accommodations. That being said, I only had 2 days to assess her, whereas typically I have a total of 2 months. 2 months to assess a student from the time the parent signs the consent form. So it was a very stressful situation for me that I knew that I had such limited time. She's minimally verbal, so she did come in with some behaviors like pushing and biting and running. So she's a runner, and she couldn't attend to the test for very long. I would have to give her, of course, sensory breaks. I gave her little fidget toys, little like stretchy and squishy balls that she could use when I felt like she was just having a hard time focusing or needed a break. The assessment in itself was pretty stressful. The fact that I had a limited time to assess her and then had to write up a report because the meeting was yesterday afternoon. So I have to finish my report and my findings and create goals for her and determine services, like how long I was going to see her for, all before her actual meeting. So that's just a little bit about what goes into special education assessments and all of that. So yesterday I'm typing away on my laptop, writing the report, writing like my findings, right? This child does qualify for speech and language services because she has an expressive language delay and a receptive language delay. So she's behind when it comes to expressing herself and also like understanding what is being said to her. These reports are really long, so they take a while to write up. And I was doing just fine. I was on a roll till about 10:30, 10:40 a.m. or so. And I just started feeling my anxiety kind of just amp up. And at this point, I had been on hyper focus mode, trying to finish the report on time for this student. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I feeling anxious? I know this whole situation is anxiety provoking, but I was feeling fine just a minute ago. What is going on? What is going on? And then I pay attention to my stomach and it feels empty. And I'm like, okay, when was the last time I had something to eat? I had breakfast, I think around 7-ish. So it'd been about 3.5 hours. And I really don't have, so I have breakfast before getting into work. I start work at 7:30 and I don't have lunch until around 11:40. So that'll give me about 4 hours, right, before I can have my next meal. But I think that we're supposed to snack in between meals, right? Or I think I read some research online that ideally you don't just want to have 2 or 3 big meals a day. You're supposed to constantly fuel your body with healthy snacks whenever you feel hungry, right? Or you're running low on energy. And I think it has something to do with your blood sugar levels going up and down. And I think I'm the type of person who needs to take trail mix or granola bars or something to snack on in between meals because by around 10:30, around there, 10, my energy levels are starting to go down. And so I noticed that also kind of correlated with my anxiety spiking up. And so the counselor was going around asking if anybody had snacks, which was like interesting because that was like around the same time that I was thinking maybe I need to eat a snack. And I was like, no, I don't. But if you find any, let me know. I could really use some chocolate right now. She's like, that is exactly what I need right now. So the school counselor, so she's great. Her office is like across from the speech room. So, we collaborate, we get along pretty well, like professionally, and then she's like awesome. And she came back, she's like, I did not find like chocolate by itself, but I did find trail mix. Would you like some? And I said, yeah. So she gave me trail mix, and I was like snacking on it. And I noticed that made me feel a little bit better, like slightly less anxious. So I think, yeah, like I said, I'm the type of person who needs to kind of be snacking throughout the day, but I really have to watch what I snack on, right? I don't want to just like be snacking on like chocolate and junk food and hot Cheetos, which I have a tendency to do is not at work, but at least at home. If I've had a long and stressful day, I'll just sit there and eat a big bowl of hot Cheetos and Doritos with lemon, and that'll be like, that's my comfort food. And chocolate is also my go-to. So yeah, I had never noticed that. I think I just go too long without having snacks and stuff, and I think that affects my mood, like my anxiety levels. Like physiologically, I guess it would make sense. Like not everybody can eat in the morning, but I do think I'm the type of person too that has to go in having like at least something in my stomach for breakfast. So I've tried fasting in the past, and I don't know if it's, I know it's worked for plenty of people, but I don't think I'm one of those people. At least I haven't been able to fast because I cannot function on a completely empty stomach. So yeah, I wanted to talk about the food. So what else did I want to talk about? Another thing I've noticed, the whole like kind of toxic family system, right? Like you guys know, I have not had a break. I have mentioned this in videos in the past where I go into work at 7:30, get out at 3, go straight to the TMS center, start my TMS treatment from 4 to 5, and then like 3 days a week I have class from 6 to 8. And in between, I'm just catching up on like reports for school or homework, or like activities and things for work. I mean, yeah, homework first for like school, or activities and reports for work. And I feel like I have very little downtime. Sometimes I feel like I don't spend enough quality time with my son. And I've really only been back to work for a week, so hooray for having made it past of having made it through the first week back at work after summer break, because it was a tough one. It was exhausting. We really just hit the ground running every time. I don't know. There's always something going on in the special ed department. Um, yeah, so I guess yesterday my mom told me one thing that she does is that she like makes custom like funeral ribbons with vinyl. So she uses my Cricut and my computer. And I've kind of walked her through, and a lot of it she self-taught herself how to like type out, the message on the Cricut, and how to use the vinyl to cut out the message, and then she'll press like the text on a ribbon and stuff. Like I used to do that for her, for like her business, for whatever she needed me to do it for. But she's become a little bit more self-sufficient when it comes to using the Cricut machine. So now she'll just do a lot of it on her own. But I guess somebody ordered designs that were a little more challenging. Like one of them was like an arch, and she doesn't really know how to do that on the Cricut machine, how to like arch her text. And another one was a really like odd kind of cowboy rope, like a rope font. And again, she doesn't know how to look for fonts on the computer and online, and download them to the computer and install them and everything. So she was struggling, and I guess she told me about it yesterday. And like I only remember her telling me about one one text that she had to make for a backdrop, because she also makes these for to put on backdrops like for parties and stuff. And I just didn't have time yesterday because I had again the TMS right after work, and then after that I had class, so I was busy all day. And then today we had an all staff meeting, and after the all staff, my sister, who also works at the school, and a mutual friend of my sister and I uh, went to Buffalo Wild Wings, and it was a pretty relaxed day. I think because during the all staff meeting, I usually hang out with my supervisor and the speech therapist assistant, which again they're great. But even though I've been there for a year and a half, I still don't feel like I quite fit in there. I don't know. I feel like they're amazing, but I feel like my personality is a lot more introverted. It takes me a while to warm up to people. I think we're okay on a professional level, but it's still kind of really anxiety provoking to just not have my own space and have to share a space with two people all day long, right? Be in the same room with them because I feel like I'm constantly being watched, even if that may not be the case, you know. Even if maybe they are minding their own business the entire time and like they don't really care what I'm doing, but sometimes it feels that way, and it's probably all in my head. It's probably all the imposter syndrome and anxiety that I'm trying to work through with my therapist, but that's just how it feels. And so today I saw that mutual friend of my sister and me, and she's only been working there for less than a year. So she, like, the all staff meetings are usually at the beginning of the year, so she's never been to an all staff meeting. So she was like, I don't know what to do, where am I supposed to go? I'm like, oh, we just have to find a seat in the cafeteria. So like she and I, we walked to the cafeteria together, we sat there, and I'm comfortable with her because we've known her for many years. And I'm the one who referred her to the one of the schools that I'm working at, and that's how she got hired as a paraprofessional. uh, and so, like, I think because I sat with her throughout most of the, like, all staff training, which was like over 4 hours long, it wasn't as stressful of a day. And then after that, we were done with that over around 1, which at that point I had to go back to my speech room and kind of hang out there with my speech supervisor and the assistant that I was talking about. You know, it was the three of us in the room. But it was only for like 3 hours, right? So it wasn't like that long of a time. And then afterwards, my sister was like, "Hey, why don't we go to Buffalo Wild Wings?" So I was like, "Yeah." So it was me and my sister and our like mutual friend, and we all went to Buffalo Wild Wings right after work, and we just kind of talked, and I felt like a sense of belonging, right? I think that as much as socially anxious and introverted as I am, like it felt nice to just have like that time to unwind and sit there for about an hour and talk about like work and things going on at work and like home. Like I actually socialized for a bit, and it wasn't so bad. And my mom was upset because when I got here, um, my son's dad was waiting for me because it was already around 6, and he takes our son on the weekends. And he was waiting, and he's like, "Oh, hey, I'm waiting for you because let's go and get some ice cream to celebrate that you like survived your first week back at work," which was great. You know, he's again, we co-parent, and he's always we don't we don't always like agree on certain things, but we try to co-parent and we get along for the most part. So I said, yeah, let me just go get Mason. I haven't like seen him all day. I think he's upstairs. And I went and got my son. I said, look, daddy's here. Let's go get some ice cream. And let's go get some ice cream. He came down here, and my mom's like, hey, where are you going? I need you to make the backdrop, the backdrop cutouts that I was telling you about. And I was like, okay, but I haven't seen Mason all day. I haven't spent time with him, and he's going to leave with his dad and he won't be back till Sunday night. So we're going to go get some ice cream and we'll be back. And then she was like, yeah, but you just got back from Buffalo Wild Wings. And I'm like, yeah, like Friday, like this was a day when I don't have TMS because the clinic happens to be closed. I also don't have class on Fridays, so I had a little bit more free time to do something besides what I usually do, right? I got to break out of the routine for a little bit. I said, I'll be right back. We went, we got ice cream, we came back. And then I went in the house. And my mom's like, hey, can you help me with, can you help me make these cutouts? Because the ladies that I'm supposed to give them to, they've been calling me all day, and I've just been telling them that I need to wait for you to get home, and you've been busy all week. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'll be there in a second, right? Then my sister calls me. She calls me to the dining room because she's like, hey, I want to transfer to a different position in the school. Can you help me draft this email to the HR person? I'm like, yeah. So I sit there with my sister. I help her draft the email. And then I go to the office where my laptop is and where my mom was to tell her, okay, let's make whatever designs you need me to make. And I can't find her. And I'm like, okay, she's probably upstairs in her room, and she was locked in her room, and I knocked on her door. And she was crying. And I'm like, are you crying? And she started crying, and she's like, yes, because I feel hopeless. I'm feeling desperate and hopeless and anxious because I have been telling you all day that I need your help with something, and you just keep going off and doing other things. And whenever I'm there, whenever you need me, I'm there, And I'm not going to deny that my parents do a lot for me. I'm not here a lot of the day. They do the majority of the cooking. They drive me places because I don't drive. And again, I think that's very much anxiety related. They take care of my son when he's here and I'm not here and I can't watch him. They they do a lot for me. I'm not going to deny that. But I also feel like I do a lot for them. Every minute of my time that I'm not spending either in school or at work or doing my TMS treatment, I feel like I'm spending it doing something for them. And I have no time to rest and no time for myself. And it frustrated me, it made me sad to see my mom cry, right? But she's always been very passive, and I guess I didn't hear the urgency in her voice right away. I really need this now. I didn't hear that desperation, that anxiousness, I'm gonna have a breakdown if you don't help me with this right now, because they've been calling me all day. Because she's always been so passive. Well, except when I was younger. When I was younger, she was totally different. She beat the crap out of me. She used to yell at me. But yeah, so I guess she was frustrated and she went upstairs and she tried to cry it out, which I'm surprised because she doesn't cry very often. And I kind of told my sister about this, and she was like, well, she does do a lot for you. My parents do a lot for you. I'm like, yes, but I need you to also see things from my perspective, that I always feel like I'm going and going and going, and I don't have a break ever. So I don't know. Again, I feel like it's a toxic family dynamic, right? They very much depend on me from little things like making phone calls for them, to big things, bigger things, and then things like doing things on the computer for them and printing things for them. And I very much depend on them for rides and other things that they do for me. So it's very unhealthy, and I feel like I feel guilty because I feel like I made my mom cry, and that's not my intention. But I also feel upset that the one time that I have actually time to try to socialize and unwind a little bit and get out of the house, that that I don't know, I'm like, I don't want to say reprimanded, but she is upset because I don't have time to sit there and do the things that she needs me to do because I'm trying to take some time for myself. So, I don't know. I'm just kind of conflicted. It almost feels like my mom was experiencing a sense of learned helplessness, which I also have, which I talked a little bit about in this one of my previous videos, right? That they've always kind of babied me, and because of my disability, which is cerebral palsy, um, and because of that, now I feel like I can't like do a lot of things on my own. Like there are some things I can't learn, like driving. Like it takes me longer to just, I don't know, be able to do things, and I don't feel like I'm self-sufficient, like I'm a self-sufficient independent adult. But I also see these aspects in reverse. So for my parents, I see this when it comes to things like that they depend on me for, like today, right? Technology aspects of it. Um, of course, translating, which I understand, English is not their first language. They still mostly only speak, my dad only speaks Spanish. My mom does speak some English, but she's not comfortable speaking English. Like really, Spanish is the language that she's most comfortable speaking. Um, and my mom, like, she's hard of hearing. Like, she has all of these, like, right, other, like, things that I know make it difficult for her to be able to communicate with someone fluently in English. But today felt like an episode of learned helplessness from my mom's side because she felt like she couldn't do this on her own. And so she had a bit of a breakdown when the person that she relied on most to do this for her, which is me, what I wasn't immediately available when she needed me to. Um, so yeah, it's weird, and it like it all kind of ties together. The videos that I've talked about previously about like the learned helplessness and my imposter syndrome, and even like growing up in an immigrant household, because I'm also an immigrant and my parents are as well, and kind of not feeling like I belong anywhere, and uh, there being like a huge culture clash, right? Because America values individualism, and that's what I'm trying to be. Like I've always wanted to be an independent individual, and I feel like I still have a long way to go. But Mexico and other countries, and Mexico, which is where my parents and I are from, value collectivism over individualism. So you put the group or the family above yourself, right? The group above the individual. But what do you do when you are born into a collectivist culture? Because I was born in Mexico. I came over here when I was around 3 years old. And you're raised here, but in a totally Mexican household with like the background and the cultural beliefs and the values that are instilled in you are those that were instilled in my parents, but you're raised in an individualist society that is America, that expects you to put yourself above all else. And sometimes those two things conflict and they clash. And I feel like that's when things like this happen, right? They very much depend on me, and I very much depend on them. Um, but sometimes I feel like I can't do both, right? I can't be, I don't know. It's it's just tricky. to balance that like collectivist mentality that I grew up with, and that I'm still very much living in, with the individualist culture that is America. And like, anyway, yeah, that's it for now. I guess I might do another mood journal over the weekend. I might not, because I have a final that I have to finish, and I have a simulation that I have to record with a partner for one of my classes. So if I don't come back on the weekend to make another like mood journal or YouTube, video, then I'll come back on Monday when I resume uh, the TMS therapy.